November 19th, 2025. 45 nautical miles off the Scottish coastline, a Royal Air Force P-8A Poseidon was flying a routine surveillance pattern over a stretch of the North Sea that looks unremarkable on any civilian chart. It is not unremarkable. Beneath that water runs a dense web of fiber optic cables, Cantat 3, Atlantic Crossing 1, and half a dozen others that collectively carry approximately 97% of transatlantic financial data, military command traffic, and the kind of internet infrastructure that the Western economy treats as background noise precisely because it has never failed. Roughly $10 trillion in daily transactions moves through those cables. Wall Street runs on them. So does NATO's C2 architecture. So does the YouTube video you're watching right now. The British crew was not expecting what happened next. Without warning, the cockpit flooded with neon green. A high-powered laser beam fired from the deck of a Russian vessel running dark 300 meters below hit the aircraft's forward canopy with enough intensity to cause immediate flash blindness and spatial disorientation. The pilot's instinct kicked in before his vision returned. Pull back, climb, create distance. On the deck of the Russian ship Yantar, some crew member almost certainly read that maneuver as a win. The intruder had been chased off. The sky was clear. The mission could continue. That reading was catastrophically wrong. The laser didn't buy the Yantar 15 minutes of clean operating space. It handed NATO a targeting solution and started a clock. To understand why, you need to understand what the Yantar actually is, because oceanographic survey vessel is the diplomatic description, and the diplomatic description is fiction. The Yantar is Project 22010, operated by GUJI, the Russian main directorate for deep-sea research. It is purpose-built for two functions: undersea infrastructure intelligence gathering and preparation for subsea sabotage operations in wartime. Its multi-frequency sonar array maps cable routes and anchor points at depth. Its two embarked submersibles, the AS-37 Russ and the AS-39 Consul, both rated to 6,000 meters, carry manipulator arms engineered to clamp onto and sever fiber optic lines. The submersibles are not research instruments. They are cable-cutting tools with pressure ratings. Moscow has deployed this ship before, and the pattern is not subtle. The Yantar was loitering near the Nord Stream pipeline corridor in the weeks before the 2022 explosions. Throughout 2023 and 2024, it made repeated transits through Atlantic cable zones off Ireland and the Azores. This was its second deployment to British coastal waters within a calendar year. NATO intelligence assessed the operational purpose as mapping, locating the most vulnerable splice points and minimum depth crossings to be targeted if conflict escalates. Find the weakest sections, file the coordinates, wait. That night, the Yantar's operational signature matched the established profile exactly. Its automatic identification system, the maritime equivalent of a license plate transmitter, legally mandatory for civilian vessels, had been switched off since early November. Its radar was active for sea surface surveillance, and it was moving in a slow zigzag pattern at 3 to 5 knots, a speed and heading profile that has exactly one practical application in naval operations: seabed scanning. Turning off AIS fools merchant traffic. It does not fool a P-8A Poseidon equipped with AN/APY-10 surveillance radar, which detects metal displacement and wave surface disturbance independent of any transponder signal. The British aircraft had already confirmed the contact, classified the behavior, and was conducting a descent for photographic confirmation when the laser fired. Here is what the Yantar's crew did not know about that moment. The instant that laser targeting system was activated, the high-powered optical dazzler used to blind the British cockpit, it generated an electromagnetic emission event. To aim a directed energy system at a moving aircraft with any precision, you need active targeting sensors running at power. And active sensors radiate. They radiate on frequencies. Those frequencies have pulse rates, bandwidths, and modulation signatures that are as unique as fingerprints. At 35,000 feet, well above the laser's effective altitude, a second U.S. Navy P-8A was flying an emissions silent SIGINT profile. Its AN/ALQ-213 electronic warfare system was not jamming. It was recording. The full spectral fingerprint of the Yantar's targeting radar, frequency, pulse repetition interval, beam width, was captured in the first seconds of emission and transmitted via Link 16 to every NATO asset in the operational area. The Yantar's captain had activated an alarm system advertising his exact capabilities and position to an audience he didn't know was listening. The British pilot, temporarily blinded, executed the correct NATO protocol to the letter. He did not pursue. He climbed and created distance. But before the aircraft broke off its descent track, the crew deployed a pattern of sonobuoys and uploaded the Yantar's precise GPS coordinates to the Link 16 tactical data network, the shared real-time operational picture connecting every Allied asset in the region. Link 16 doesn't send reports. It sends continuous position data at machine speed. Human eyes were out of the picture. Machine sensors were not. Those coordinates went, among other places, to the USS Indiana. The Indiana is a Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, a boat that the Navy has described publicly as the quietest submarine ever built, which understates the case. Virginia-class boats generate acoustic signatures that are largely indistinguishable from ambient ocean noise at engagement ranges where previous generation submarines would have been clearly audible. The Indiana had been operating in the Yantar's vicinity for hours, positioned in the vessel's baffles. The acoustic shadow directly behind the propeller shaft, where a surface ship's own noise masks the sound of anything following it. From that position, the Indiana's bow sonar had been recording the acoustic signature of the AS-37 submersible's propulsion system since it began its descent. To the sonar technicians aboard, the sound of the Russian mini-submarine's electric motor was not subtle. Virginia-class sonar suites can separate a shrimp's cavitation from a torpedo tube flooding at 10 miles. The AS-37's engine was considerably louder than a shrimp. The Yantar's captain made his next move the moment the British P-8 climbed away. Assuming the sky was temporarily clear, he cut his radar to reduce his electronic signature, a textbook deception maneuver. Simultaneously, the AS-37 below released an acoustic decoy, a device that replicates engine noise and drifts in one direction while the real submarine quietly turns in another. The logic is sound. Split the tracking picture, make the pursuing asset choose between two contacts, and use the confusion to reposition. Against a sonar operator working a single passive array under time pressure, it sometimes works. The Indiana's crew did not chase the decoy. They had been tracking the AS-37's specific acoustic signature long enough to know its propulsion characteristics at the fingerprint level. The precise frequency harmonics of that particular motor under load. The decoy produced a generic approximation. It was not a match. The Indiana ignored it and executed a reverse track, swinging wide behind the Yantar's stern and repositioning 900 yards off its screws. The Russian sonar operator was looking forward for the American contact. The American contact was now directly behind him, inside his minimum detection range, in the acoustic dead zone his own propeller created. The Yantar's captain had no idea the geometry had inverted. The response came in 3 sequential layers, each one removing another option from the Russian decision tree. The first was communications severance. The AS-37, operating at depth beneath the cable zone, receives navigation guidance from the Yantar via hydroacoustic signaling, essentially underwater radio. The SIGINT P-8A had captured the exact frequency and modulation pattern of that communication channel during the laser incident. The second P-8A, still operating above effective laser range, activated its electronic warfare suite and filled that specific channel with directed high-intensity noise. Not broadband jamming, targeted, precise, surgical. On the Yantar's control screens, the AS-37's telemetry feed went to error codes. The submersible lost positional data, lost its cable approach coordinates, lost contact with the mothership. Blind and deaf at depth, with no reference point for the target, the sabotage mission could not continue. The second layer was revelation. From its position 900 yards off the Yantar's stern, the Indiana activated active sonar and fired a single ping, one pulse, a sharp metallic acoustic signature that propagated through the hull of every vessel within 3 miles and was immediately recognizable to any navy in the world as the signature of an American nuclear attack submarine conducting a targeting event. The Yantar's crew did not need to consult a reference manual. They understood what that sound meant and where it had come from. The enemy was not on the horizon. It was underneath their propeller. The third layer was the British P-8 returning to the area, lights and radar active, conducting a methodical sweep of the Yantar's position from altitude. A deliberate, visible presence that closed the final exit. Sky above covered, submarine below cornered, submersible mission neutralized. The message required no translation. Your asset is isolated, your ship is bracketed, your operation is finished. Retreat is the only remaining option that preserves the crew. The Yantar's captain gave the recovery order. The AS-37 was hauled back aboard. the ship killed its remaining active systems, turned its bow north, and began the transit back toward Murmansk at a pace that suggested no desire to test whether NATO's patience had any further depth. The two P-8 aircraft flew a loose escort formation, their sensor suites documenting every detail of the withdrawal. Not a single weapon was discharged. The Russian ship was tracked continuously from the moment it turned until it cleared the UK's exclusive economic zone. The intelligence yield from those 90 minutes outlasts the confrontation itself. The full acoustic signature of the AS-37 Russ submersible under operational conditions, motor load, cavitation frequencies, propulsion harmonics is now in NATO's underwater signature library. Every future deployment of that vehicle into monitored waters carries that liability. The targeting radar signature the Yantar activated to aim its laser is cataloged against its specific system, meaning future deployments of that vessel can be detected and characterized the moment it powers that system, before any crew aboard has time to react. And the hydroacoustic communication frequency the AS-37 uses to receive guidance from its mothership has been recorded, analyzed, and demonstrated as jammable under real operational conditions. Russia did not lose a submarine that night. It lost something harder to replace, the operational confidence that its subsea infrastructure warfare tools can be deployed without detection, neutralized without engagement, and withdrawn without documentation. That confidence was the foundation of the entire hybrid warfare approach. The Yantar's value as a strategic instrument rested on deniability, the ability to conduct cable mapping and sabotage preparation below the threshold of attributable military action. Once a Virginia-class submarine has pinged your hull from 900 yards and two P-8s have escorted you out of the zone on camera, deniability is not a strategic posture. It is a talking point that no one believes. The laser was the tell, an aggressive, visible analog weapon deployed to create 15 minutes of operational cover. The kind of tactic that works against an adversary whose sensor network requires human eyes and voice communication to function. The US Navy's response was a 21st century kill chain that doesn't need eyes to see, doesn't use voice to coordinate, and doesn't require physical proximity to establish a targeting solution. By the time the Yantar's crew thought they had bought themselves a window, that window had already been closed from the outside. The cables beneath the North Sea are still intact. The Western economy's circulatory system ran without interruption the following morning. And somewhere in the Northern Fleet's operational review files, there is a detailed accounting of how a ship designed to operate without leaving evidence left an intelligence signature that NATO will be reading for the next decade. The question that sits unresolved in every NATO planning cell that reviewed this operation is the obvious one. The Yantar is a surface ship with submersibles. It is detectable, trackable, and vulnerable to exactly the kind of pressure that forced it to withdraw. A nuclear-powered attack submarine with a fiber optic cutting tool requires a different response calculus entirely. The knock that the Indiana delivered, one active sonar ping, restrained and precise, worked against a research vessel whose crew had no appetite for escalation. Against a Yasen M operating at depth with a full weapons load and orders that don't include the option to retreat, the knock may not be the right instrument. Where that line sits and who draws it is the strategic question that the North Sea confrontation raised without answering. Drop your analysis in the comments. The gap between what worked here and what the next scenario demands is real, and the people tracking these systems closely tend to see it more clearly than the official statements suggest. If this breakdown added something to how you read subsea infrastructure warfare, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The next file covers the infrastructure mapping that preceded this incident, the months of positioning that made that night possible, and the implications extend well beyond one research ship and one cable zone.